So full disclosure, I prepared myself this week, all week, to do this homily, and I was totally ready to talk about something else. But as I was sitting here this morning listening to Jordan and Lynette proclaim the scriptures, I was reminded that God is love. And what perfect way to talk about this than on today, Mother's Day. I come to you not only as Deacon Stephen, I come to you as a son, a grandson. So today is an important day for me. For me, throughout my life, God's love has not just been God's love. God's love has been like my mother's love, like my grandmother's love, my aunt's love. Many of us here are blessed to have our mothers and to have our grandmothers. And today is really one of those days where we can acknowledge that, thank them, and love on them. We always do that. For me, I always love my mom, but today I do it in a special way. And today's readings really reminded me of God's love and really our mother's love. Today, the Acts of the Apostles, we hear about Philip. We also heard about Philip last week. Last week he was kind of doofy, kind of like a doofus. They were looking at Doubting Thomas and Philip were both chastised by Jesus last week. Chastised for asking questions. I myself have asked questions, not just of Jesus, who is Jesus, but God as well. And last week, Jesus chastised them, asked them not to question, but for me, in order for me to get to where I can talk about it up here, where I can share my experience of God and the love of God and what Jesus is to me and who God is to me and where I would like for my spiritual journey to end, the only way we can do that is if we ask questions. We learn about it, our faith and our religion. We can learn about it by coming to Bible study, which we do every Wednesday, or we can learn about it by just sitting, writing in a journal, sitting and praying. Any way that we can expand our knowledge of Christ and who God is in our life, I'm all for it. One of the questions that I ask when I'm trying to learn more about my God, our God, is who am I? And who is God in my life? These are important questions to ask because it helps us expand, it helps us get a little uncomfortable. I've not always been comfortable coming up here, and I still kind of am a little nervous, but it's because I've tried to learn and expand on my knowledge. I've asked Father Jamie questions, I've asked Becky questions, I've asked everybody questions in order to help better understand who God is in my life. Today's second reading comes from the first letter of Peter. And in it, it tells us that we are, as Christians, we're reminded that we need to not just keep God to ourselves, but really prepare ourselves to explain to others who God is, the love of God. But not just to do it, don't just do it, but do it with gentleness and reverence. That second reading reminds me of why a lot of us are here today in Holy Family. A lot of us might have been in other institutions where we might have not felt the gentleness and the reverence. It's important to make people, when we talk, we don't want people to be turned off by our message and how we're saying it. It's important to make people want to come. How would imagine if Jesus was out there scaring people and you're gonna go to, this is what's gonna happen if you don't follow the Gospels. People would have been very turned away. So yes, it's important for us to talk about God and following the commandments, but we have to do so with the gentleness, with love in our hearts, with kindness. We don't want to turn people away from God. And a lot of times with our words, when we sit down, I'm oftentimes cautious to sit down and talk to people about it because I don't want to come off as judgmental, condescending. I want people to feel the love of God. And we have to be careful for that because oftentimes we can come off as judgmental. Which leads me to the gospel. Today when I read the gospel, it almost reminded me, we oftentimes watch the news, right? And the people just sit there, just talking, really talking, big words, and they sound smart, but really nothing's coming out if you really think about it. I feel like today's gospel calls us not to just be talking Christian heads. We should strive to show the love of God in our lives. What does that look like? How do we go throughout our daily life? Every day that I wake up, I ask God to open my eyes and open my heart to the people around me. love isn't just a word. It sounds beautiful. This morning on my way to church, I was sitting with Jordan. There was like 28 different definitions for the word love. What does love look like? That's what I asked Jordan. What does love look like? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is understanding. All the things that our mothers, thankfully, and luckily I was blessed with a mother that was like this. And you know, I understand that not everybody is. But today being Mother's Day, I'm particularly struck by the love and patience and kindness and mercy and gentleness and reverence that God shows us, our mothers show us, and in turn, as Christians, we are called to show that love and reverence to our mothers, to our neighbors, to God, to those around us. This week, as we leave the church and we get ready to go and celebrate our mothers, let's think about how we can honor our mothers, honor God, love one another, help out when we can, call people who might need a talking to, open our hearts, open our minds to those that are directly around us. That's really a good way that we can honor our mother and honor Christ this week. Amen.
Amen.